Hello, everyone. Today's recording is a bit spotty in some places. I hope you guys still enjoy the episode despite of that. Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Gray,
And my name is Crystal.
and this is Bust the Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where someone who has seen this show several times.
And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. So for today's episode, we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 8, Crossroad Blues, written by Sarah Gamble, directed by Steve Boyo.
Sarah Gamble's going 2 for 2 on anti-black racism this season.
Oh, what specific thing are you talking about?
Oh, like in this episode?
Yeah.
I think just the narrative about Robert Johnson, and also I guess the fact that the only black character, all the black characters who made demon deals get killed, and then at the end Dean's like, oh, just spare Evan, but who gives a shit about George? He told us to leave him alone, so let's just let him die.
I think the Robert Johnson one is interesting because he is like a real life person, and there are rumors about his death that they bring up in a. So it's like they're just expanding on the existing suspicions about this guy. Yeah, lore. I was gonna say lore, but I was like, this is a real life person. I don't think I should say lore.
It's about the mythology surrounding the real person, though.
Yeah, exactly. Did you know anything about this one before going in?
I knew that it was going to be about demon deals, and also when I mentioned what we were doing next to my ex-fiance, she said, ugh, it's that racist one where they let a black man who made a demon deal get mauled by hellhounds, but some white guy who wants to live gets saved. So that's what I knew about it.
The story starts in Greenwood, Mississippi, all the way back into 1938. And a man is playing blues in his guitar, and this man is Robert Johnson. And as we said earlier, Robert Johnson is like a real life person. He's a musician who people like to say sold his soul to be this good in the guitar. Supernatural took that and ran away with the concept, so that's the basis for the episode. He starts to hear growling, which puts a pause to his music playing, and this happens several times until he sees the shadow of a beast passing by the windows. He gets up, goes outside, and starts running towards a building where he locks himself inside of. Growling dogs are barging into the door, and the Supernatural does this thing where the moment the door opens, it's not dogs, it's people, and Robert Johnson is on the floor convulsing. And as that happens, a woman tries to talk to him, and he's like, oh, there's black dogs, big black dogs. And the last thing he sees is her necklace, which is a cross. And then he dies.
Sorry, bro.
Your music was fucking groovy as fuck, though.
Yeah, no. You did really good on that guitar. It was worth it. So we start with a diner, like usual. And Sam's on, the St. Louis Police Department website, where there's a mugshot of Dean and his hair looks like shit. And Yeah, and he's talking about how there's a warrant out for him in St. Louis, and the FBI has him in the database, and Dean thinks this is super cool. He says, I'm like Dillinger or something. Who I don't really know who that is, but it seems like that was a gangster during the Great Depression.
What?
Alright.
What a deep cut.
Yeah. So Sam tells Dean to take this seriously. And Dean asks, well, what do they have on you? And Sam seems a little upset that the police aren't out for him. And Dean... mood, but also very white. And Dean's like, you're jealous. What do you have on the case right now, you innocent, harmless young man? And Sam's like, grr. Okay. So apparently there was an architect named Sean Boyden who died by jumping off of the roof of his house. And he called animal control 2 days earlier, saying that there was a vicious wild black dog that was straight up in his apartment, like several floors up. And then later he killed himself. So Dean asks if they think they're dealing with an actual black dog, like I guess like a specter of death. And they look at some lore about it. Sam hands over some drawings of black dogs, and Dean says, yeah, I bet they could hump the crap out of your leg.
Which... And then Sam makes a face, and Dean's like, what? It's true!
Good. I'm not weird.
It's good! Why would you say no when he obviously can hump your leg?
God, you know, I'm like trying not to make any more Omegaverse jokes in our episodes, but like Dean's literally talking about dog dicks and humping. Like, I don't like, he's not making my job easy.
So, Sam and Dean go to interview Sean Boyden's business partner, and they say that it's for a tribute in Architectural Digest. Anyway, have you seen like Jared and Jensen's Architectural Digest videos?
I've watched Jensen Ackles' one because of that Twitch streamer who seemed very enamored with him. I've not watched Jared Padalecki's.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm bringing this up. I just find it fascinating, I guess. Truly a look into the lives of two men.
No. Yeah. Jensen Ackles had like the word fire cut out and put over his fireplace, I guess in case you forget that the fireplace has fire.
Anyway, the guy is kind of taken aback by the concept that these guys would be writing a tribute for the guy. He's like, oh, of course he gets a tribute. And I'm like, okay, cool. I know you're a bitter fuck, but like, calm down. I mean, yeah, so literally just died. Like, you're fucking bad mouthing him. Anyway, he says that the guy lived a charmed life and that he was a fucking genius. He says he's on the level of Mozart with his architectural talent. And he says it wasn't always this way. 10 years ago, he was just working at Lloyd's Bar, which is a dingy place. And then overnight, it's like he got a commission and it all snowballed from there. Suddenly, he was making all these ingenious buildings. And then he goes, funny, geniuses, they always seem to die young. That level of genius, why throw it all away?
And I was like, is Supernatural implying that Mozart made a demon deal?
Did Mozart die young?
Mozart did die in his 30s, I think. But also, he was a genius, like, as a child.
Yeah.
So I feel like he wasn't toddling out on his 3-year-old legs with black cat bones to make a deal with the devil.
I thought about, like, the 27 Club in this. Do you know that? What that is?
No.
The 27 Club is, like, a term people refer to, like, people who die, who are famous, mostly musicians, who die when they're 27. So it's like, yeah, they die young. And I actually looked up, like, 27 Club, like, just when this happened, because I was like, wait, I think I'm misremembering something. And so I looked at the wiki, and Robert Johnson is, like, the first guy to die at 27. That's, like, in the list.
In the entire world?
In the entire fucking world. Yeah. No, but, like, they say explicitly in the wiki that, like, Robert Johnson is, like, seemingly the first guy to have followed this club in a way. So, yeah, I just thought about it.
Yeah, I guess by supernatural standards they would be making their demon deals at age 17. Or, well, Robert Johnson died 8 years after his deal.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that demons adjust the number of years in their deal for inflation based on expected human lifespan during that decade. Like, back before penicillin was widely distributed, it'd be like, you get a year.
10 years is way too much.
So, we cut to the outside where Sam's waiting in the Impala while Dean's leaving the Animal Protection Agency. And Dean comes in and he says, Secretary's name is Carly. She's 23, she kayaks, and, they're real. And you think he means the dogs, but he means her breasts.
Yeah.
Can I give him some kind of a point?
Let's imagine the situation where this occurred. Did he ask?
Yeah, like, either he asked, or he stared as she walked around and evaluated the bounce for, like, silicone levels.
Dean, how do you even know, like, to differentiate a real and fake boobs?
I do not know. Like, unless she let him feel her up, like, in the bathroom while he was asking about this guy's death. Like, I don't know how he did this.
I don't know about a point, but, like, probably, you should probably give him one. Just for, like,
yeah, like, whatever he did to find out, like, I don't think it was good.
I'm surprised that Sam immediately caught on that, like, when he said they're real, he was talking about boobs. I was like, I when he said, you didn't ask her about any black dogs, that's when I realized. So, like, the fact that Sam realized immediately means, like, Dean says this so much that Sam is just like, oh, come on, Dean.
Oh, God. Yeah. So, Dean says that he got a copy of every complaint called in this week about a big black dog. And then he shows a post-it note on top of the printed sheet. And he says, I don't know what this thing is. And apparently it's Carly's MySpace address, which Sam recognizes. And Dean says, MySpace? What the hell is that? Seriously, is that like some kind of porn site? Which, okay, MySpace reached its peak in like 2006, right?
I have no idea, but yeah, maybe. I was using Friendster. Do you even know that?
No.
I'm gonna look up Friendster while you speak.
Okay. I just want to know why Dean doesn't know what MySpace is. Like, I know why Sam would know. I'm assuming that in Stanford, everyone was friending each other on MySpace. But, like, why? Is it just because Dean has no friends?
Literally, it's because he doesn't have any friends.
Yeah. You'd think that they'd have to look at someone's MySpace page for, like, a case at some point, though.
Yeah. I mean, like, way later on, they tell Cass that, like, if you want to know something about the victim, you go online.
Yeah.
Apparently, Friendster was famous in 2004, so I was a bit behind. I was using this at, like, fully, like, 2008. Like, I was fully a Friendster person. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm just still stuck on why Carly gave him her MySpace instead of her phone number.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
This Friendster, does MySpace have, like, chat?
Yeah, I think it had instant messaging.
So Sam and Dion go up to a house and they knock and they open the door. It's an Asian woman.
It's an Asian woman.
We
did it, guys.
And this woman looks Southeast Asian, right? So
yeah,
I'm actually not sure. Maybe we'll check later.
Should we?
No, later.
Yeah, we can't look at the IMDb right yet, but yeah, later we can check.
But she looked Southeast Asian, and I was like, oh my god, Filipino representation. And then, later it was revealed that she was a maid, and I was like...
Yeah!
I thought it was funny. And, like, it makes sense because, like... I mean, makes sense in that, like, you know... I mean, she had an American accent, though. So she wasn't, like, an OFW. An overseas Filipino worker. Like, she probably lived there. And so I thought it was hilarious that they were like, oh, we have a maid character. We should hire a Southeast Asian person. Like, you know, just for funsies.
Yeah.
Anyway, they talk to this woman and they say they're from animal control and they're asking for Dr. Sylvia Perlman. The maid.
Don't you think it's kind of rude that they immediately assume that it's not her? Like, I know Perlman's a white last name, but, like,
she may be mixed. Yeah, she can be mixed. Anyway, they go inside the house and they start talking about Dr. Perlman, and the woman says she left a couple of days ago. And the thing is, like, they didn't need to say that she was the maid, right?
Yeah.
Like,
they needed to say that she was the maid so you wouldn't think that Dr. Perlman was dating this woman.
Oh, no. Like, they literally were like, and you are? And she was like, oh, I'm the maid. And it's like, this is literally unnecessary. Like, I don't know why I'm so caught up. Actually, I do know why. It's like, you know. But,
yeah.
I just thought, like, when it happened, I was like, okay, cool. Anyway,
yeah, same.
The woman says Dr. Perlman just, like, packed and went. And also that she has never seen, like, she as in the woman, has never seen or heard the dog that Dr. Perlman was talking about. Throughout all this, Dean is by a wall of pictures. And he picks up a picture of Dr. Perlman drinking with some friends. And he comments that she is quite young. She's like, what, 40, 43? And the woman says, oh yeah, she's the youngest surgeon.
Chief surgeon.
She's the youngest chief surgeon in the hospital and, you know, youngest in history. She got the position 10 years ago. And Dion's like, oh, okay. He looks at the picture and he flips it. And it shows Sam that this picture was taken in Lloyd's bar 10 years ago.
Yeah. Imagine being a maid and two guys come over and say they're from animal control and one of them just starts taking photos off the refrigerator and reading the backs of them. Literally, I would die. So, we cut to a motel room where Dr. Perlman is there. She does not look well. She looks very haggard. She's afraid. She's hugging herself. She's pacing. And then she hears some loud banging on the door. And someone outside, presumably someone who works at the motel, says, like, that she needs to leave the room or pay for another night. She opens the door and says, okay. And as she gets out the money to pay, this guy's face changes, like his eyes get gray and his jaws all like stretching around weird. And then she freaks out, throws the money at him, and then locks the door.
Yeah.
Do we ever really get an explanation of what this phenomenon is? Like, it's not like the dog possessed him. Like, what happened there?
I have no idea. Because like the other one, right? The next time we see the face change thing, it's from someone who is not the demon. So it's like she's just saying "I love you" back, and it's like in the guy's head that it's happening. This one, it's quite unclear because when he closes the door, he like does a little smile, and it's like, okay. Anyway, Sam and Dean go to Lloyd's bar, and as they walk towards it, Dean turns around and sees a bunch of flowers on the side of the road. He thinks this is weird, and Sam points out that these are yarrow flowers. Dean says, oh, that's used for certain rituals, aren't they? Summoning rituals. This is when the dots start connecting that, oh, they're in the middle of the crossroads. There's some summoning flowers by the side. Maybe those people summoned a demon or something 10 years ago. They start digging the soil right in the middle of the crossroads, and he hits something solid. Dean hits something solid, and he stops digging and picks out a box, a metal box that contains some bones, some soil, like a jarred soil, and a picture.
Yeah.
This is when Sam realizes that, oh, these people have been summoning demons, and they're not seeing like black dogs. They're not seeing spectral black dogs. They're seeing hellhounds, demonic pit bulls.
So when they pull out the box, Dean says, that's serious spell work. I mean, that's deep South hoodoo stuff. Right, so the Crossroads in hoodoo, well, at least, okay, so we're according to this one paper. So, Crossroads and hoodoo came from Yoruba tradition, which believes that crossroads are places of, like, opportunity and choice. In that tradition, there's, like, a figure named Eshu Elegbara, who is an unpredictable deity with the power to make things happen. So, like, it is a tradition in hoodoo to make some sacrifices at the crossroads in order to, like, get something. However, like, that is not at all related to deals with the devil. The crossroads figure is not a demon, and you do not trade your soul for it. So, yeah, they've, like, taken some of the tradition, and then they've taken the rest and really westernized it to the Faustian ideas of demon deals. And, it's weird.
Also, this is where I bring up the fact that Dean is wearing his leather jacket this episode, and I have an important update about my Winchester jacket acquisition escapades. So last time I've talked about this, I have a leather jacket, and I was looking for a Sam Carhartt hoodie. I have found one.
Woo!
And I have acquired it. It's with me right now. I'm literally holding it right now. It's a size XL because, like, that's the one I can find. I bought it for, what, $10? And it's a size XL, so it's a bit big on me. But, like,
It's Sam-sized.
it's Sam-sized. A part of me is like, oh my god, it's like a boyfriend fit.
Yeah!
Which is so embarrassing that I even think of that. But like, literally, this is Sam's hoodie, and I'm just borrowing it. So for the immensely curious as to what happened to my journey, well, the only thing left that I need to acquire is a Cass trench coat. I for real need a Cass trench coat. I also, like, I have a jacket that I constantly say looks like Jack's jacket. It doesn't, not really, but like I've showed you this jacket, right? Like it kind of has a similar pattern to the first clothing that Jack has ever worn. So I also have a Jack jacket. I acquired that
Very
one
good.
before I even knew who Jack was. So I was ahead of my time. So back in the motel room where Dr. Perlman is staying, she is crouching by the window, and then the door is being pounded by the dogs. And then the window gets knocked out. Is that a term? The window gets busted in. I have no idea. It gets shattered, yeah, by, an invisible force. And she tries to hide, but this beast rips apart her clothes in a really visceral way. Like, it rips her pants, and there's like giant scars, there's giant wounds that manifest on the rips of the clothing. Very reminiscent of, well, not reminiscent because it hasn't happened yet, but if you've seen, the Hellhound episode of season 3, like, it looks very much like that. And she's pulled across the floor, she's screaming, she's crying, she's dead.
Sorry, bro. Yeah, so we cut to Rosedale, Mississippi, 1930. And the background music in this scene is Crossroad Blues by Robert Johnson. I think there's quite a lot of Robert Johnson background music in this episode. So we see Robert Johnson out of Crossroads, and he buries like a little bag in it, and also he has his guitar with him.
Yeah.
So after it's buried, a woman appears behind him. She's like in a white dress, and she's quite pretty, which I think is part of why he goes holy, and also because she appeared out of nowhere. And then she says, holy, and then her eyes turn red, and she says, guess again. And after she walks towards him, he says that he wants to play guitar. He wants her to make him the best bluesman who ever lived. And she says, if that's what you want. And he asks, how do we, seal this deal? Do we shake on it? And then she shakes her head, and she kisses him. And then he disappears. So, Sarah Gamble just invented this out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
She was like, for the rest of Supernatural, I'm gonna make it your problem that they have to make out.
For real.
Do you think she wrote this and then Eric Kripke was like, wait, so that means John and Azazel? And she was like,
Literally, she was the first John Zazel truther.
Right. Yes, so there's that. Okay, I guess, for the further fact-checking on Robert Johnson, so the myth that he made a deal with the devil, it arose from a few places. Some sources were interviews with his friends and relatives, and then the other main reason was that there was a musician named Tommy Johnson, who was not at all related to Robert Johnson, but claimed that he himself made a deal with the devil for his musical talent, and people sort of got that mixed up with Robert Johnson because he's more famous. the thing that actually happened with Robert Johnson was just that he took guitar lessons for 2 years and then came back better at guitar. So, in terms of, like, the popularization of the legend, like, on one hand, it was often popularized by white journalists who, I guess, just couldn't really understand that someone can take guitar lessons for 2 years and then be better at guitar. And, like, probably some racism aspects to that. But in terms of, like, what his friends and relatives may have claimed to have seen, which was him going to the Crossroads and meeting a tall black man there who tuned his guitar for him and then, like, gave it back. What George Lipsitz writes in Remembering Robert Johnson, Romance and Reality is that the Crossroads metaphor should not be dismissed as irrelevant or foolish. Johnson's family members and fans interpreted his history through the lens of their experiences and beliefs as African people in America. By remembering and retaining aspects of Africa in their lives, they could turn themselves from an oppressed national minority into part of the global majority of non-white people. So yeah, I mean, part of the legend is, like, nice. It's like a connection to his culture, and part of it is racism. So, you know, it's a whole thing. And if Supernatural was more accurate about how Crossroads worked in Hoodoo, maybe this could have been decent, but they had to turn it into the Western romantic ideal of making a deal with the devil instead, which is not what he did. He didn't sell his soul. So yeah. And also I guess in terms of his death, yeah, he did die at 27, and Dean claims that some people think that he saw black dogs before he died. I think the two most common theories are that he died of syphilis or he died when he flirted with a married woman and then her husband poisoned him. So, yeah, no dogs involved.
Anyway, Sam is trying to convince Dean that they have to save these people. They have to find out who else made a deal and save them before they die. And Dean is against this. He thinks that people who, you know, made the deal should just face up to their consequences. Dean brings up a photo that they found in the box, and he says, oh, this guy probably made a deal. Let's ask around in the bar if anyone knows him. And they do that.
Yeah. Dean's being such a dick, because, okay, we find out later that his whole deal is that he's realizing that John made a deal, so he's feeling bitter about that. And I think probably the thing that the architect's business partner said earlier about, like, oh, he gets a tribute after he leaves me and his family behind is probably also getting to him. But also, like, I don't understand why it's manifesting into this response. Like, I don't think it would manifest into a, oh, like, no one should have saved John and he should have died for the consequences of his actions. Like, that doesn't seem like where it would lead Dean.
I think they were both very annoying this episode. So, you know, they're equal parts. It's fine. They get to be annoying sometimes.
Wait, you thought Sam was annoying?
Yeah, the way he was talking
For
to
what?
George, I thought was quite annoying.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that very well. So we go to George Darrow's house. And they're going upstairs. And Dean's, like, shitting on this guy's house. He says this house probably ain't up next on MTV Cribs, is it? And, like, I thought it was nice. I thought the wood gave it a nice rustic feel, says the person who found out who gay people were through watching HGTV. Yeah, so they decide that whatever deal he made was not something that made him rich. And then Dean says, who knows? Maybe this place is full of babes and Princess Leia bikinis, and he, like, makes a motion in front of his chest where he's, like,
Grabbing
cupping
a boob.
boobs. Literally, sometimes he likes to just grab a boob plus his penis got an attitude.
Literally.
Can I give him a point for that? That was annoying.
No. We need to control our giving Dean point agenda.
Alright. My agenda is just to give him as many as possible. But yeah. And Sam just sighs at Dean's immaturity. So they eventually reach his apartment and they see that underneath the doorway is black powder. And they go down to inspect it, and Dean thinks it's pepper. And the door opens, and it's George. And he asks them who they are. He thinks that they're door-to-door salesmen, so he shuts the door. But then Dean says, usually when you want to keep something evil out, you go for the salt. And then he shows the picture that George put in the box, and he asks, like, have you seen that hellhound yet? And Sam tells George, like, we want to help, just let us talk to you for 5 minutes. Sam, the last time you tried to let us talk to you for 5 minutes only, Max Miller shot himself in the head. You should give yourself more minutes next time, bro. So they go inside the apartment, and it's full of paintings, and the paintings slap pretty hard, but we don't even get, like, close-ups on any of them. Like, they're just in the background, which I think is incredibly rude, given that he sold his entire soul to be good at paintings, and, like, the cinematographer wasn't even like, let's linger on these a little bit, you know?
And also, like, I feel offended for the props team. They made those. And the director was like,
nice.
Whatever. Like, and he was talking about his talent. Like, we could have gotten, like, close-ups of his paintings. And so, like, we could have gotten those shots.
In, like, a modern art museum, and I would have looked at them and read the plaques and been like, cool.
Yeah.
But we didn't get that. And also, when we go in, like, we pass by this cabinet, and it has, like, skulls in it? Right?
I didn't know this.
Okay, I think I saw that. I guess I didn't check if that's involved in Hoodoo or not, or if they were just like, let's just make this guy seem bad even though he's totally fine and normal. Yeah, I don't know. So, they ask about the dust in front of George's door, and he says that it's goofer dust. They look confused, and he says, what, you boys think you know something about something, but not goofer dust? So true, George. He gives Dean a little bag that's full of the dust, and George explains that it's part of Hoodoo practice, and that his grandmother taught him about it. It's supposed to keep out demons. And George basically tells Dean to, like, keep the bag for your own protection. So, Sam tells George, Mr. Darrow, we know you're in trouble. And Dean says, like a little bitch, yeah, that you got yourself into. Just shut up. Just stop talking. Dean, just shut up. So, Sam says, like, it's not hopeless. We can help. And George says, like, I get that you want to help, but sometimes a person makes their bed and they've just got to lie down in it. I'm the one that called that demon in the first place. Dean asks why he did it, and he says, I was weak. I mean, who don't want to be great? Who don't want their life to mean something? I just never thought about the price. And he says that it wasn't worth it because he asked for talent instead of fame. So he's a really good painter, but he's still not making any money off of it. Yeah. Poor guy. I'll buy your paintings, George.
I'll buy your paintings for $10 because that's literally all I have. But I will buy it, George.
Yeah. And he says the worst part is that after he summoned the demon, it didn't leave. It stayed at Lloyd's bar for a week, talking to people and making more deals. He says that he tried to warn people, but who's going to listen to an old drunk? Which, okay. The thing is, I'm assuming the way that the deal conversations went, like, you can have anything you wish, and then you'll die in 10 years. And people were like, yeah, I believe that. And then George was like, hey, that's a bad idea. And they were like, no, you're crazy. Like, is that what happened?
I have no idea. And, like, they have to kiss the demon. So it's like,
yeah.
you know? I have no idea. I have a question, though.
Uh-huh.
If you were to make a demon deal,
uh-huh,
would you would you do it? Two, what would you wish for?
I mean, probably just protection for, like, my friend. You?
What a vague ass wish. I think there are times where it would be, like, fucking worth it, you know? Like, can you wish for world peace, you know?
Right,
can you wish for, like, a cure for cancer that's accessible to everyone, no matter whether they can afford it or not? Like, I don't know. I feel like there are times where it would be worth it. It's fascinating to me that every single demon deal that they have is, like, super personal. You know, like...
I feel like it has to be personal-ish, though, because, like, I don't know what the mechanisms these demons are using to
How about I wish
something happen,
that, like, I develop a cure for cancer. Like, that's a personal wish.
That's true, you could. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I die after 10
know.
years. Seems like a deal to me.
It does seem like a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess just because this demon was just making deals with people at dive bars who were already partly drunk. Like,
yeah.
They just didn't have the foresight that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam asks who the other people who made a deal were, and George says, like, the architect, that doctor lady, and then one more guy, some nice guy named Evan Hudson. But I don't know what he asked for. And he says it doesn't matter now because we're done for. Sam says, like, no, there's gotta be a way. And George says, you don't get it. I don't want a way. I called that thing. I brought it on myself. I brought it on them. I'm going to hell one way or another. All I want is to finish my last painting. Day or two, I'm done. I'm just trying to hold them off till then. And he says, like, you guys need to go help somebody that wants help. And Sam goes, like, you don't really want to die. And George says, I don't. I'm tired. And they leave. Again, it's really rude that they aren't giving us close-ups on George's paintings, because he's literally like, I want to finish my last painting and then die, and we barely get to see the painting.
I know! And for me, the way I saw this was like, okay, he just wants to accept his fate, and I respect that. Mm-hmm. But the idea that he was like, I'm gonna put this off just so I can finish my last work, because this is something that he likes to do, you know? Like, this is his passion. He literally sold his soul for this. I think it would have been very touching to see his painting. And especially if it's like, you know, a reflection of his fears, of his regret, of the strong emotions that we were shown that he experiences. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we just don't see it. It's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. And I was so sure that we would return to him a little bit at the end of the episode and at least see the completed painting. And, like, we don't. Like, this is the last time we ever see him. They're just like, okay, bye.
Oh, yeah, that would have been pretty nice if it's like, you know, like there was a callback and it's like, this is what the painting looked like. And he died and Evan lived. And the difference between them is he wanted to accept his fate and the other one wanted to live. And it would be like a take on, like, you know, free will, human choice, whatever the fuck.
Right. They could have cut back and forth and stuff. It would have looked nice. Ugh. Whatever, Sarah Gamble. Also, I guess, like, part of it seems to be, like, he wants to die because he feels guilty that he summoned the demon. And that's sad.
Yeah.
Like, they made their choices.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, I get feeling guilt, but, like, he's been feeling guilty enough that he's been, like, keeping up with their names in the newspapers for, like, 10 years. Like, man, poor guy.
Okay, so we go to yet another house. And this guy is named Evan Hudson. Why do I find that funny? Is that near a name that we know? I think,
are you
near
thinking about
Evan
Hansen from the musical?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this guy, Evan Hudson, is, you know, working on his job. And then he hears a growling noise outside. He takes a peek by the window. And his wife comes in and is like, "Oh, are you spying on the neighbors?" And he's like, "No, I just heard the noise." We get the reveal that he is sending her out for the weekend to see her sister. He knows he's gonna die. I'm a bit unclear. Like, everyone knows that they're gonna die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, was there an exact date? Or it was like, did they remember specifically that it was like 10 years?
I guess they probably remembered that it was 10 years. And also they've been hearing the dogs.
Robert didn't know, right? That's the implication.
Yeah, they didn't tell.
Shocked.
Yeah, she didn't tell him, like,
that it was 10 years.
how many years it was. Yeah.
Yeah. The wife asks, like, "What are you doing this whole weekend?" And he says, "Oh, I just have some bills to pay." Oh. And then he tells her that he loves her and that he'll miss her, and then they hug. And it's a whole thing. The wife actually suspects for a bit that something's wrong. But he was like, "No, it's fine. Just leave." And before she leaves, she turns around and her face warps into the demonic, you know, thing that we saw earlier too with the doctor and the hotel guy. And this time, though, like we said earlier, she turns back to normal and she is still her. And she says, like, "I love you too."
So Sam and Dean show up to Evan Hudson's house. And Dean, taking the worst approach, goes, "You ever been to a bar called Lloyd's? Would have been about 10 years ago." And Evan freaks out because he thinks that they're the demons here to collect. And he slams the door, runs away. Dean kicks down the door and is about to kick down the other door Evan's in, but then Sam notices that, like, that door handles are a thing, Dean, and you can just open the door. So, Sam talks to Evan, being a bit calm, saying, "We're not gonna hurt you, we're trying to help you out of this deal." Dean's continuing to be kind of rude. He calls it a genius deal. He says, "You're running low on options there, buddy boy."
When has he said buddy boy before?
Yeah, no, I've definitely It's definitely happened before, but I can't place the episode.
Yeah. Let's look up our transcript.
On the
I'm sure
transcript search.
Yeah, listen notes. This is actually, like, I recommend this to everyone. If you're gonna look for something in our podcast, like, go to listen notes and look up the transcripts because it's very convenient there. Anyway, let's look up Buddy Boy. I don't know why we're doing this. This is not important, but I'm really curious. He says it in Asylum. You shall be kind of hard there, Buddy Boy. That's why I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good scene.
Anyway, we're getting derailed.
Yeah. So, Evan says, I don't want to die. And Dean says, of course you don't. Not now. And Sam tells him to, like, shut the fuck up. Evan reveals that he made the deal for his wife, but doesn't elaborate. Dean goes, right, getting the girl, well, that's worth a trip to hell for. Evan says, he's right, I made the deal. Nobody twisted my arm. That woman, or whatever she was at the bar, said I could have anything I wanted. And he says that he was desperate because Julie, his wife, was dying. He reveals that he did it to save her life because she was dying of cancer, and they were saying that she was only gonna live for a few days.
Here's my issue with this. She was only gonna live for a few days. Why the fuck are you in a bar?
Yeah!
Like, what the fuck are you doing there? Be by her side. This is so wild that you're, like, just being like, oh, I'm just gonna get drunk in a bar because my wife is dying. Like, fucking stay by her bedside, bro.
Yeah, like, I know that you are having a hard time, but, like, have a hard time after she has died and after you've, like, made her last few days good.
Exactly.
So, he says that I made the deal and I'd do it again. I'd have died for her on the spot. Dean says, did you ever think about her in all this? And Evan says, I did this for her. And Dean starts, like, getting all up in his face, saying, you sure about that? I think you did it for yourself, so you wouldn't have to live without her. But guess what? She's going to have to live without you now. What if she knew how much it cost? What if she knew it cost your soul? How do you think she'd feel? Can Dean take his emotional issues and stop projecting them on every other case? Like, you just talk to someone. Also, actually, maybe what I'm more mad about is that Sam never gets to project his emotional issues on every case. Like, this entire season has been Dean terrorizes poor people on a case because he can't deal with his emotions, whereas Sam, too, is John Winchester's son. And in this episode,
I think Dean is being quite unfair here. Like, obviously, she won't know.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, like, he has made it as easy for her as possible. Like, he sends her away for the weekend so that he can die in peace without her knowing for, like, a couple of days more. And it's like, I don't know, I get that he's projecting, but, like, and I get it, you know, like, in this situation, I mean, it's fucking fictional, so I don't get it. But, like, you know what I mean. Like, I get what the narrative is trying to say. But still, cut the guy some slack. I feel bad for Evan.
Me too.
I mean, he lives. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah, but still. Yeah, Dean's doing all that. And then Sam finally tells him to stop. And tells Evan to sit tight. He and Dean head into the hallway. Is Sam allowed to have emotions instead of just, like, pulling Dean back by his leash every time Dean blows up his emotions all over a case? Like, can Sam have feelings besides asking Dean if he's okay? I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, he asks Dean if he's okay. And Dean's like, yeah, why wouldn't I be? And then he says that Sam should use the gopher dust to protect Evan. He says you throw George's hoodoo at that hellhound, which feels quite dismissive. Yeah, and he says that I'm going to go to the crossroads and summon the demon so that I can trap it and exorcise it. And Sam goes, like, no. Dean says, you can't say no unless you have a better idea. But Sam says, like, I'm not letting you summon that demon because I don't like where your head is right now. Sam says, you've been on edge ever since we found that crossroads, and I think I know why. You think maybe Dad made one of these deals. And I think I know why is so funny. Like, Sam thinks he's solved, like, the world's hardest puzzle, and it was, like, not hard. It was a 2x2 Sudoku board.
When he was like, I think I know why, I think I had the same reaction as Dean. I was like, oh, we're having this conversation. And I was like I was kind of tired of Sam this episode. Sorry, Sam. So yeah, Sam says, hell, I've been thinking it. I'm sure you've been thinking it too. Yeah, no, Sam's acting like he's solved something amazing, and like he hasn't. Yeah, Dean goes, what if he did? What if he struck a deal? My life for his soul. I guess Sarah Gamble was like, I know we already showed all of the scenes of John striking the deal in the then section of this episode, but just in case the viewers forgot, let's spell it out in the, like, plainest, stupidest words possible. So, Evan says that he thinks he hears the hellhounds, so Dean rushes off to the crossroads, and Sam goes to protect Evan. Dean goes to the crossroads. He places a picture of his ID. I tried to pause and look at it, his ID. All I saw was that his first name in the ID was Robert. And I was like, oh, he's naming himself after Robert Plant, probably. Yeah. What a fucking nerd. And he, buries it in the soil. Yeah. He didn't make a new box. This is the box that George made. The man that you left for dead. You are stealing his box to summon this demon. I think that if you want to successfully summon a demon, you should go get your own fucking cat bones. Like, you can't be a moocher like this, Dean. So, as he turns around, he sees a girl, a woman, and the way this woman speaks is very much like she saw Meg and she was like, okay, that's my instructions. Right? Yeah. I wish it doesn't work as well on her. It doesn't work as well. I respect the hustle though. Like, she had a vision. She persevered. Yeah. But do you think she looked kind of like Lisa? I think you're just mistaking brunettes as, this is a brunette white woman. Yeah. Yeah. Women on Supernatural all look the same. Also, she's, like, wearing this black dress, right? Which is fine, but, like, it's got, like, it's a very low V-neck, which, again, is fine, but Supernatural has a pattern of, like, sexy supernatural woman creatures. Like, when Tessa reveals herself as a Reaper, she's suddenly wearing a low-cut black dress. Like, surely, like, they have something else in the wardrobe for evil women. Like, Meg's jacket was cool. Can we have that back? Do you know that photo in the SVN set where it's like... Yes, the shoes for women and the two boxes are sluts and what was the other one? Like, old women? I have no idea. I think it was like nurses and hookers. I think that's right. Wait,
Yeah, like that was how the costume department labeled women's shoes.
Wait, let's look it up. So I'm sure, because I don't wanna misquote.
Where would we even find this photograph?
It's like supernatural shoes to buy shoes hot topic. No, supernatural shoes behind the scenes. How would you even find this?
I'm checking if my misogyny tag on my Supernatural blog has it.
Oh, it's worse. It's non-footwear women's hooker shoes.
Oh my
the
fucking
two
god.
types of women, nuns and hookers.
I want to speak to whoever in the costume department labeled those boxes.
I know. Like, can't they say high heels? You know?
Yeah.
Like, flat
high heels
shoes.
and flats.
Yeah. Nuns and hookers. The two genders.
The two genders. Yeah. Well, right. So, back to this.
Okay, back to this. They banter a bit, and she reveals that she knows who Dina Winchester is. And Dean asks what she has heard. And she says, well, I heard you were handsome, but you're just edible. What can I do for you, Dean? What does that mean?
Like, you know, like, I could eat you up, I think it's just, like, you're, like, really, really hot, like, I, like, want
I think...
you in my mouth.
No, I interpreted it as, like, I thought you were handsome, but you're just so-so. Because she says, but you're just edible. Like, it's like, you're not, like, delicious, you're just edible. Right?
That's not the vibe I got. I feel like stating that you want to eat someone generally means like I would be all over that.
Yeah,
but I like your interpretation.
She's not impressed.
I like your
That's
interpretation because I think I'm sick of every demon wanting to fuck every single Winchester, cause like they're like thousands of years old. They have better things to do.
Yeah. And Dean asks her to go to the car with him. And so they walk towards the car.
I mean, there are scenes of Sam and Evan cut in between these Dean scenes, but like really nothing happens besides Sam putting the goofer dust in a circle around the two of them and then like dogs coming at them. So I feel like we can probably skip the other times when it cuts to them. So,
meanwhile, Dean and the demon fuck. Wait.
They don't fuck.
No. Definitely not. So, meanwhile, Dean and the demon are walking towards the car. And Dean is saying that he wants Evan to be released from the contract. The demon keeps on saying that that's not gonna happen. Until Dean says, I'll make it worth your while. I'm offering myself. The demon says, wow, you'd sacrifice your life for someone else's. Like father, like son. And I literally, like, I know it. I know what happened. We already saw what happened in episode 1 of season 2. I know that this reveal was gonna happen this episode. And yet I was still like, no! Like a very dramatic no! I was very affected.
I was not. I was like, we already knew this, and Dean already knows this, like, whatever.
It's the confirmation, and like, you know, his lips wobble. That's like something that like Jensen doing the lip wobble is something that I notice a lot, and it's truly a fascinating move. Every single time like I write or read fan fiction and they mention the lip wobble, I can visualize it perfectly because he does it so often. And his lips were wobbling this scene, so poor Dean.
Yeah.
Make those lips wobble, boy. So the demon keeps on saying, you know about the deal, right? His life for yours. I didn't make the deal myself, but boy, I wish I did. And Dean is still being, very quiet. But he opens the door for her of the car. The demon was about to step in when she notices that there are markings on the floor of a devil's trap. So she doesn't get in, and she starts to get really fucking mad.
Yeah, again, Evan and Sam are getting attacked by dogs, whatever.
Literally, that's how they treat Sam. Like, that's how they've been treating Sam pretty much after episode 2. Like, the rest from episode 3 to episode 8, it's just been 5 episodes of, yeah, Sam's also here. Whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And Dean's sad about John's death, but yeah, no, they were like, he was your father too, and then they promptly forgot that. God, yeah, so the demon, it tells Dean that she should rip him limb from limb, and sort of backs him up towards this wood thing. I don't know what it is. It's wood and it forms a little roof. Dean says, take your best shot. And the transcript says that he says this more pleading than defiant, which seems quite editorial on the part of whoever wrote the transcript.
Who's writing the transcripts?
Like, save that shit for AO3, bro. Like, I appreciate your work. But, like...
No, I truly do appreciate their work. Like, I promise you that I appreciate it. I'm super grateful. But this particular segment is quite questionable.
So, she says, I'm not going to put you out of your misery, because your misery is the whole point. It's too much fun to watch, knowing how your daddy died for you, how he sold his soul. I mean... that's gotta hurt. It's all you ever think about. You wake up and your first thought is, I can't do this anymore. You're all lit up with pain. I mean, you loved him so much, and it's all your fault. God, this was so sexy of her. Go girl.
She literally was like, I'm gonna come for his fucking throat. And she did.
And also, like... Chuck coded the fact that she's like, your misery's the whole point because it's fun for me to watch.
Go girl.
Yeah. She says, you blew it, Dean. I could have given you what you need. Your father, I could have brought him back. And she goes like, your loss. Bye. Have a nice long life. And she starts walking away, and Dean goes, hold on. And she turns back around, and he asks, like, can you bring my dad back? And she says, like, yeah, I can, and he would live a long and natural life like he was meant to. This guy's a bad hunter. His long and natural life is probably, like, 2 more years. And then Dean asks about himself, and she says, I could give you 10 years, 10 long, good years with him. That's a lifetime. The family can be together again. John, Dean, Sammy. It's fascinating that she calls him Sammy. Like he's about to be the boy king of hell in a few years, and they're calling him Sammy down there. Yeah, she says, your dad's supposed to be alive, you're supposed to be dead. So, we'll put things back in their natural order, and you get 10 extra years on top. Right, and, like, Dean definitely wants to make this deal because John and Sam are all he has, and family's all he has, etc. Poor guy. But honestly, like, think about how after 10 years, you're gonna leave John and Sam alone together, and they're gonna, like, fight each other like dogs in an illegal gambling ring and die. Like, bro. As she's talking, she's walking closer to him, and he's backing up, getting her under this wooden overhang. And he makes a joke about whether or not she can throw in a set of steak knives. And she starts with, this smart-ass self-defense mechanism of yours. And then she notices the devil's trap above her head. And she's, which is cool. How far, like, okay, devil traps work if they're under you. They work if they're over you. Haven't people talked about the idea of just, like, getting a plane and painting a devil's trap under it and then just flying it over anywhere that you need a demon trapped?
I've read that.
Like, there's gotta be a range.
This is what I was thinking of. You know how, like, when they were exercising Meg, they would, like, stop every once in a while?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the distance between the sounds your mouth is making?
Right. Like, what if you said the first half of an exorcism and then took a nap and then went to Arby's and then came back? Like, would you have to start over?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm sure those sequence of sounds have been made over and over again by like a person, you know? Like, through the years. So, like, I think you can exorcise a demon just by being like a monkey in a typewriter type of situation.
Yeah. Seriously, yeah. So Dean says, like, let's make a deal. If you call off your hellhounds and let Evan go, then I'll let you go. Again, like, just who cares about George? Like, come on. Come on.
Yeah, like, he's already here, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you can just say,
throw
like,
George in.
Just throw him in there.
Like, I don't think it's Dean respecting George's wishes. I think it's just Dean going, like, well, George deserves it. Like,
yeah.
Fuck off, Dean. So, the demon continues protesting, and Dean's like, okay, fine, and he pulls out an exorcism. Meanwhile, more dogs are coming at Sam. Again, whatever. They don't cross the line of the goofer dust, but later they start thinning it a bit. Dean starts trying to exorcise the demon, and she says, forget Evan, think of your dad. And Dean has a bit of a face about it, but then he keeps going. Yeah, Evan and Sam have to run away because the circle's broken. And Dean eventually stops because the demon says, wait. And then she kisses him. And it is definitely some form of sexual assault, but at least the episode acknowledges it.
Yeah.
Because Dean says, I usually like to be warned before I'm violated with demon tongue. So, yeah. Why? I just want to know, like, Sarah Gamble recognizes that, like, this act is an act of sexual assault, like, maybe even in cases where you make the deal knowingly just because, like, it's not the best situation to consent. So, like, do you think her intention was, like, to mix the horror of, like, uninformed consent to a demon deal with the horror of, like lack
uninformed
of consent
of the demon deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. I think they're definitely, like, you can read it that way, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, like, a decent writing choice. But then they had to stick with it for, like, 13 more years.
I mean, like, at least we got, like, a crabby kiss out of it.
Yeah, no, at least we got the Cass got him life slug reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, so she says, like, it's a deal. Evan Hudson is free and he and his wife will live long lives. She says, like, this is true. It's, like, it's the case when I make a deal. It's the rules. You got what you wanted. Now let me go. And then Dean, just like he did with Meg, starts, like, trying to exorcise her again. Still. Ugh. Again. He promied. Rude.
Yeah. I think it would have been interesting if he did exorcise her.
Yeah,
but,
like, fully.
Yeah. But, you know, he promised and he sticked with that promise. So, good for him.
Eventually. after she says, you're gonna double cross me? Funny how I'm the trustworthy one. And then she says, like, if you send me to hell, then I'm gonna climb out eventually, and I'm gonna skin Evan Hudson alive. Hell yeah. And Dean's like, okay, fine, I'm not gonna exercise you.
I think it's interesting that they give, like, demons this kind of integrity. It's one of my favorite traits about Crowley, who I don't think we've ever talked about in this podcast. He is a significant part of the show. I also don't like him that much, but he is a significant part of the show. And if I can say anything about his character, I would say that I admire that he sticks to his word, that's his most prominent character trait. And that is something that he sticks to from beginning to end. The only time he has double-crossed someone, I think, was the Leviathans. But the way he double-crossed them was he made them sign a contract, and there were, like, details in the contract that were double-crossy. But it's still according to the word, you know, because it's part of the contract. So, like, I love that trait about Crowley. And I guess it follows true that I love the trait with other Crossroad demons.
Yeah. I guess, okay, so how hard is it to climb out of hell? Because, like, she is specifically a Crossroads demon. Like, that's her job. Like, she has special red eyes and everything. You'd think whoever's in charge of hell would be like, yeah, you need to get back up to Earth to do your job. I'll let you up and find you a vessel.
The economy is in shambles. We need workers, you guys.
Exactly. Yeah. I also wonder, like, what is even the motivation behind, like, what do demons get out of demon deals?
Well, they get a soul in hell. Which I don't understand why that matters.
Yeah, like, why do they want it? Like,
you know how, like, in heaven, what powers heaven is angel grace?
Yeah.
I think it would have been interesting if what powers hell is, like, you know, the souls. The misery of the souls or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they need, you know, more souls to keep the electricity going down there.
Yeah. Yeah. They should loan some to Ellen. The Roadhouse is not looking good.
They have an arcade game in the Roadhouse. I think that's pretty decent for a fucking house on the road.
That's true. Yeah, no, when we saw Lloyd's, I was like, I apologize for everything I've ever said about the Roadhouse. Lloyd's is fully 3 cars wide and not even the long side of a car.
So true.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So she says, the demon says, you would have never pulled that stunt if you knew. And Dean asks, knew what? And she says, where your dad is, you should have made that deal. People talk about hell, but it's just a word. It doesn't even come close to describing the real thing. And Dean says, shut your mouth, bitch! Which, please, can he come up with better insults? Like, I just want a little creativity here. Like, he can do all these fun pop culture references everywhere else. Like, can he find a new insult for women that isn't just bitch?
He's like, shut your mouth, you manic pixie dream girl.
See, that would actually be funny. This was just uncomfortable. Yeah, so the demon goes like, yeah, if you could see your poor daddy, hear the sounds he makes, because he can't even scream. Exactly what John deserves.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. And Dean's, like, about to attack her. He says, how about I send you back there? But he doesn't have the Colt, and he's definitely not going to be able to exercise her while she's out, so I don't even know what he's trying to do.
He's trying, no. He's just being threatening. You know how he is. Why am I talking about Dean like he's a fucking 4-year-old?
Yeah, you know, when he doesn't get his snack, he gets a little bit threatening, but if we just put him to bed and let him have a little nappy nap and some apple juice, he'll be back to normal in no time.
Just remember to not give him too much sugar after lunch, and he's gonna be fine. He wouldn't try to murder you at all.
Yeah. This is probably how Sam would talk to his friends if he had friends.
Yeah.
If Sam and Joe were allowed to be friends, like, this would be, like, half their conversations. So, yeah, apparently this somehow freaks out the demon enough that she leaves her vessel, the black smoke pours out of her mouth, and her vessel, like, falls to the ground. Poor girl. And she, like, looks around, quite scared, probably quite scared because she's, like, in, like, a skimpy dress that she probably doesn't own outside in the dark with some random man, right? Yeah, so, like, yeah, she goes, what, how did I get here? And then we never see her again, it just ends that scene. I hope she, like, got a car back to wherever she lives and that it's not too far from here. And that she doesn't have a bunch of unpaid bills that she has to deal with.
Can demons pop in and out?
Oh, you mean, like, return to the vessel, or?
No.
Or you mean,
as in,
like, the smoke is still inside, but they, like, retract their control?
No. I mean, like, you know how angels appear and disappear?
Oh, yes.
Can you do
we
that?
saw the Crossroads demons, like,
they appear
when they got summoned.
Yeah, they appear.
But I don't know if they can teleport
disappear.
On their own. The Crossroads demon disappeared after she kissed Robert Johnson.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Is that teleportation?
Maybe.
I'm unclear on the powers of demons.
Yeah, because for angels, the teleportation is their wings, right?
Yeah. Aww. Yeah.
I wish Cass had his wings back so he wouldn't have to drive everywhere and not know how to fill up the gas in his car.
No, I love that he doesn't know how to fill up his gas in the car. I think it's an important character trait, and I think
it's an important gay representation.
Often. Yeah. So, Dean and Sam. Oh no. No. Sam and Dean are in the car, and it's very dark outside, and they're driving. The situation here is Dean has already relayed to Sam what happened, and Sam is reacting to it, and he says, demons lie all the time. Maybe she was lying.
Yeah, doesn't Dean comfort him with the same thing in Phantom Traveler when the demon tells Sam that Jess is burning in hell?
Yeah. Exactly.
Poor guys.
They're like, the demon is lying unless they're talking to me, in which case they're telling the full truth. But, Dean, says, do you really think she was lying? And then after a beat, he says, how could he do it? Sam says, he did it for you. Dean replies, exactly. How am I supposed to live with that? The thought of him, wherever he is right now. He spent his whole life chasing that yellow-eyed son of a bitch. He should have gone out fighting. That was supposed to be his legacy, Not bargaining with the damn thing.
No, do you remember when Jensen Ackles was like, I didn't want Dean to die on the ground because it was too weak? Like, Dean literally is like, I can't believe John died making out with a demon instead of trying to kill it. Like, homophobia.
No, that's just my issue with this. Why is he like talking about legacy right now? Like, a demon just told you that your father is burning in hell, and you're like, what about his legacy?
I needed to cry myself to sleep with the image of my daddy dying because he killed a demon, not because he kissed a man.
No. Anyway, Sam insists that, his legacy was that he saved so many people and that he taught us to save so many people. Evan is alive because of what Dad taught us. That's his legacy, Dean. We're still here, man. We gotta keep going for him. I'm just confused by the direction of the episode and the conversation. Why are we going here? Why?
Like, neither of them are like, wow, it sure sucks that John can't even scream with his throat because he's in so much pain.
Like, at this point, they're still thinking about themselves. Like, they're still thinking, like, what about what John left behind? And it's like,
I guess
your dad. Like, I don't like John. But, like,
yeah,
he's literally burning in hell. And you guys I'm assuming you guys, like him enough or love him enough that you care about the fact that he's burning in hell. And it's like, oh, what about what he left behind? Oh my god.
I guess maybe the charitable reading is that Dean didn't want Sam to know about that part, so he left it out of his retelling. But I feel like if that was the case, we would see Dean purposefully leave it out so that we could, like, feel emo about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sam, after Beat, asks Dean, hey, when you were trapping the demon, you weren't really thinking of making the deal, right? It was all a trick, right? And Dean, blue steals his way through this, just looks off into the distance. He looks to the side, actually, for a bit, and then he looks forward, and he turns up the music real loud to a rock song. And Sam just looks at him, and the episode ends.
Yeah.
Okay, so Crystal.
Yes.
What do you think about this episode?
A lot of the pieces just didn't fit together very well. Like, I didn't dislike it. Yeah. Like, I liked certain parts of it, and I liked us finally learning the Crossroads demon lore. And I liked George a lot, and I liked the flashbacks, like, they were fun. But the way it was all put together left much to be desired. And also, I would like it if Sam was allowed to be a person sometimes. And also, I can't believe they let George die and we never got to see his fucking painting. Yeah, you?
Like you said, like, this episode is fine. It's not, like, I didn't dread watching it like I did, for example, Simon's. I mean, Simon Said was like, if Simon Said to me was also fine. And this is better than that. So maybe this is like above average a little bit, I guess. I just felt very much like, again, I didn't understand, because the end scene was supposed to be the thesis of the episode, right? Like, that's supposed to be the emotional bit. And I didn't get why it ended that way or whatever the fuck.
Right, because if they're talking about legacy, are they saying, like, it was okay for Robert Johnson to do that because he left behind great music?
A legacy, yeah.
A legacy, and everyone else, it was fine because they left behind a legacy? Because that doesn't seem to be what they're saying. But also, like, at the end, is it?
Yeah, what are they saying? Cast voice, I'm mostly confused. I love going down. I mean, it's an okay episode. I think it's better than some episodes of season 2 for sure. But yeah. I just want to say too that, like, before the episode truly goes to credits, did you see the soon?
Yes, I did.
Did you watch it?
Yes.
What a way to hype us up.
Yeah. No,
Truly.
the shots of the Impala swerving like a lot. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. I actually quite remember the following episodes. I think this is for Croatoan and the episode after that, which I think is Haunted.
Yeah, Hunted
Let
is
me
the one
check.
where we find out what John said.
Yeah. I actually checked if this was like the mid-season finale.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, so I don't understand why we had this soon at the end of the episode. I guess they were just trying out something new.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super fun. It was like a road so far, but you don't know what's happening. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyway, best line, worst line. Can I start
Okay.
with my worst
Yes.
line?
Yes.
I don't like the and they're real.
Yep. Nor I.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do you know? Why do you care? So what if they're not real? So what
Yeah.
if they are real?
Yeah.
Like, come on, Dean.
Yeah. Ugh. I guess my worst line, I guess I was probably gonna go with that one, but I guess to diversify, I'm gonna go with the Princess Leia bikinis line, specifically just because of the like hand motion that Dean makes.
Yeah, there are no best lines in this episode.
Yeah, it's meh.
It's truly meh.
I think I kind of liked, I don't know if this is the best line, but I liked when George said, like, this is goofer dust, and they look confused, and he says, what, you boys think you
Oh
know
yeah.
something about something, but not goofer dust? Like, it was a good way to be like, there is a whole world of, like, culture and practices that you white boys know nothing about. And if the episode could have executed that better, but I just like the idea of there, like, being a lot of other like practices and like creatures and things out there that we just don't get to see in Supernatural.
I like the line, you wake up and your first thought is, I can't do this anymore.
Me when I have to watch Supernatural. No,
Me
it's fine.
anytime.
Not that bad.
Literally, he wakes up and he thinks he can't do this anymore. Sorry, Dean. So IMDb rating.
I feel like this is probably somewhat high.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because it introduces some important demon lore. And like people really liked the flashbacks to the cult being made for some reason in Dead Man's Blood, and we had some historical stuff here. Simon said got an 8.5, so I'm just also gonna say 8.5 here.
I would say an 8.4.
Okay.
Okay, let's look. Oh no! I went the wrong direction. I should have gone
Oh.
higher. It's an 8.7.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, I feel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was lowballing it, I guess. Because like you said, it's like not equal to the sum of its parts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how they use that phrase? I have no idea.
I think it works.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm a fucking genius. User reviews. Let's check it
oh,
out.
the maid is played by an actress named Catherine Thomas, so we can't figure out if she's Filipino from that. But again, literally she could have been mixed and she could have been Dr. Perlman because the actress is literally mixed, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine Thomas is made.
Yeah.
Jesus. Let's see her full bio. Why am I doing this?
We need to know if she's Filipino.
No, she's Canadian though. So.
Alright. I mean, is there not?
I hope she's living a good life.
Yeah.
I love her eyebrows.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the user reviews. User reviews.
The one that ends with also, yeah, Dean's got issues. Same. So true.
This one rated it 8 out of 10.
Mhm.
Annoyingly disjointed, plotty, still good despite that. I think it's true. Like,
Yeah.
it is quite disjointed, but you know, it makes up for it for the. Well, actually, I'm not sure if it makes up for it, but it's a decent watch. Like, you're not like struggling in your seat, going, "I have to pause this episode because I am having such a terrible time watching it."
Yeah.
Like, it's all right.
Yeah, it's not everybody loves the clown.
Yeah.
This person said it was nice that even though Sam was obviously terrified himself, he kept on trying hard to protect Evan from the invisible hellhounds. I really appreciate, like, the Sam girl who wrote this, who's trying so hard to give Sam something.
He tried so hard to protect Evan. Like, he stood there inside the circle with him, and then they ran outside. Come on.
Yeah.
This one is so funny. Someone else said the girl who played the demon played it over the top. Let me ask you a question then. Have you ever met a demon and had a conversation with one before?
This person is like this actress's bestie, like logging into IMDb absolutely incensed.
Okay, so that's it for this episode of Busty Asian Beauties. Next week, we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 9, Croatoan. Leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts.
Follow us on social media. We are on Twitter at twitter.com/beautiespodcast and on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is babpod, BABpod, and thank you to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.